Hello, everybody. This is Dr. Cole. It's Sunday afternoon, September 25th, and we're now entering week 6 of Con Law, Political Science 3753 for the fall 2022 term. All right, everybody. We have 2 weeks left before the midterm exam. I'm going to be getting an announcement out soon about the midterm exam. Well, maybe in a week or so. Okay? The exams will be similar in format to the quizzes, although there will be some multiple choice items on the exams. Anyway, we have 2 weeks worth of material before the midterm exam, which is on the syllabus for the 6th and 7th, which is a Thursday and Friday. I may move that to Friday and Saturday. Okay, wait and see. Okay, watch for the announcement that's going to be coming out in a few days or a week or so. Probably we'll wait a week before we formally announce that, but it may be on Friday and Saturday rather than Thursday and Friday. In any case, everybody, what we have on the syllabus is, for this week, Congress's taxing and spending powers and also the power to regulate commerce. 2 sets of class notes. And then next week, federalism, okay, meaning the relation between the feds and the states. Now, it so happens we have a discussion and a quiz this week, and they're both related to the federalism material that is coming up on the syllabus for next week. Okay? Right, let me say a bit about what's on the syllabus for this week, and then the discussion and the quiz. And we'll save the rest of it for a week from today or so. All right. Let's see then. Okay. Now, class notes for lectures 9 and 10. Much of what you will be looking at involves changes that took place with the New Deal, okay, the political program of President Franklin D. Roosevelt back during the 1930s and 40s, that the Supreme Court first attempted to obstruct and then eventually went along with in the wake of the controversial court packing plan that would have added justices to the Supreme Court. Some of it's being talked about again even today. Okay, so an important episode in history. Okay, but what happened was that whereas the court very often would very closely scrutinize government activity in this area, okay, beginning along about 1937 or so, the court took the position that whatever the government, Congress and the President wanted to do in the area of economic regulation, taxation, regulation, would be okay, would be waved through as constitutional without too much of an argument. So a very, very important episode in history. Now, everyone, things like this are never 100% settled. There's some new material for this term that I have introduced into the class notes. So watch very carefully in that second set of class notes, lecture 10, I believe. You will see a discussion of a case from the 1980s involving the Chevron Corporation and what came to be known as the doctrine of Chevron deference. There's been a tremendous amount of discussion in the press the past few years about Chevron deference. You might have run across some of that. You might wonder what it's about. When you look at those class notes, after that discussion of the Chevron case, there will also be a discussion of the recent Supreme Court decision that came down just a few weeks ago in the case of West Virginia versus the EPA. Okay, so take a look at that. That's new material for the fall 2022 term. Okay. Now, your discussion, which will be tomorrow, Monday through Wednesday, and then your quiz on Friday the 30th, both have to do with next week's material on federalism. Okay, what we're asking you to discuss tomorrow through Wednesday is, we know the Supreme Court made a ruling on abortion, and abortion is going to attract our attention right after the midterm exam. But it's become a federalism issue. For one thing, the Supreme Court now will let states differ in whether or not they permit or restrict abortion. Some states are completely pro-choice. Others have moved to restrict abortion to some degree or another. Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina has proposed a federal abortion bill that would severely restrict the availability of abortion after 15 weeks of a pregnancy. Now, I've given you links to several articles, okay, some of which insist that that's a good idea, and others of which say, no, abortion regulation should be left to the states. Okay, and your attitude toward federalism will determine, to a large extent, what you think of that. Okay, so we'll discuss that tomorrow through Wednesday. You don't necessarily have to look at each of those links. Okay, some of them may be a little redundant, but I would look at one or two pro or con on each side at least. Okay, then on Friday we have our third and final quiz before the midterm. You're asked to look at excerpts from 2 Supreme Court decisions, both of which are in the area of federalism. One of which you've been sent a PDF of a case from going back to the 1960s, South Carolina versus Katzenbach. And what's at issue in that case was, did the federal government have the power to enforce the Voting Rights Act? South Carolina versus Katzenbach. Those go back to the early 1960s, I believe. And then a more recent case, Garcia versus the San Antonio Transit Authority. This one goes back to the early 1980s, I believe. Okay. Now, the question is, did Congress have the right to regulate wages, hours, and working conditions in a local government agency such as the San Antonio Metropolitan Transit Authority? Okay. Now, we'd had 40 hours a week and time and a half for overtime for some time. But up until that point, the question had been raised, could Congress regulate local, state, and local government employment? If it was employees of state and local government, would the federal system permit Congress to regulate that, or was that strictly up to the state and local governments? That's what's at issue in Garcia versus the San Antonio Metropolitan Transit Authority. So those are the 2 cases you'll be quizzed on for the 30th. Everybody, note very carefully, generally will give you excerpts with more than one opinion. There will be a majority opinion and perhaps a dissent or 2, or maybe even 1 or 2 concurrences. So look at all the opinions you were given. You may be quizzed on any of the opinions that occur in those assignments. South Carolina versus Katzenbach and Garcia versus the San Antonio MTA. Okay? All right, so that is what we'll be doing for this week. Okay, after that, next week we'll look at the federalism class notes and be getting ready for the midterm exam. Let me say also, everybody, I attempt to travel to OPSU every year for homecoming. Homecoming is this coming weekend, the 1st. I do plan to be on campus. I should be on campus for the game on the 1st. And also I expect to be on campus a little while, Friday the 30th. So if you'd like to say hello, that would be fine. If you don't know what I look like, there are plenty of people on campus who will know because I was a full-time faculty member until just a couple of years ago. So perhaps we'll be seeing some of you this weekend. Otherwise, we have a discussion and a quiz this week. Okay, we have class notes on taxing, spending, and commerce powers this week. Then next week, we'll look at federalism issues from the class notes and be getting ready for the midterm exam. So perhaps I'll get to see some of you this weekend. Otherwise, study hard, take it easy. We'll talk to you again a week from now at this time.